Well, let's speak now with Dr. Efrat Sopher, who is at the Ezri Center at Haifa University and expert on Iranian strategy in the Middle East. She's also a deputy at the Board of Deputies of British Jews. She's on the line now. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Kathy. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I just want to, perhaps we could just pick up with the point that Zach was making about the Friday prayers and Iran's president addressing Friday prayers, what he said, the rhetoric, and what you read into that.
So there's a lot. It's whenever an Iranian leader makes a pronouncement, there are many, many layers to it. So we can see that the supreme leader, first of all, spoke in both Farsi and Arabic. To me, that means that he's trying to reel in an unraveling proxy network. He wanted all the Arab-speaking proxies to reestablish authority with them, so to speak. And of course, he was praising, as you and Zach said, he was praising the October 7th massacres, and that I think, and there was a massive Palestinian flag in the middle of the crowd that was bussed in free of charge. I think this is a desperate attempt at massive propaganda, and that the supreme leader is trying to reestablish some sort of control over his proxy networks.
Well, fascinating. Just want to unravel a few points you made there. You're talking about the fact that he spoke in two languages, very interesting. And he also urged people from Afghanistan to Yemen and from Iran to Gaza and Yemen to be ready for action. That sounded very much, didn't it, sort of corralling the proxies for a regional war?
Yes, indeed it does, and worryingly so it does. And it's very much within the style of Islamic Republic strategy. Again, this is not the Iranian people who are themselves, there is, as Zach was saying, a wave of opposition to the regime. The Iranian people themselves have been suffering a lot. As you said, it is a corralling, and it's very much within the Islamic Republic style to have simultaneous attacks, as we saw on Tuesday night, where there was a terrorist attack, a shooting inside Jaffa, at the same time as the barrage of almost 200 ballistic missiles. So as we're speaking now, a drone attack from Iraq, the Iranian strategy is to overwhelm whoever it is, whether it's Israelis or indeed American forces in Iraq, whoever that they come across with. This is very much within the Iranian style, and that means that it's in the interest of both Israel and the US, the UK, France, and our Gulf allies to address the Iranian threat.
We'll come back to in a second to how Iran might respond to a further escalation from Israel. But you were talking about the crowds being bussed in. Iran's president said this huge crowd was a show of unity and power. I mean, I know people don't take that too seriously, but how real is the public opposition to the Ayatollah?
From what I've seen, there is real public opposition from both ideological reasons. The Iranian people are educated, they are connected to the outside world, and they know that they deserve better. So we can see in social networks, for example, in the night where there was a barrage of Iranian rockets, which, the same military material is being used against Iranians themselves. They were saying, Israel, come and attack us. We're ready. We'll do the rest of the job. We've also seen in studies that when the regime itself feels weaker, the number of executions go up in a very dramatic way. So the Iranian people themselves are suffering, and this is, again, an opportune moment, I think, if one were to look at how to tackle the Islamic Republic. It's not only from a regional and world perspective, but it's a defining moment for Iranians themselves.
Let me put to you what Zach was talking about at the end of his live there. Excuse me. He was talking about, people blithely talking in Israel about, targeting some sort of oil facility, or possibly even the former Prime Minister Ehud Barak was talking about a symbolic attack on a military target related to Iran's nuclear program. And, Zach was making the point that these sort of threats and, may well be carried out in the next few days are sort of tossed around, and yet there are massive implications from that in terms of human suffering and environmental impact. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think this is something that's being weighed in Israeli decision-making circles at every turn. We can see also that the Iranians are taking it quite seriously. I've heard within the Israeli media that Iranian oil facilities, some of them have been emptied of the materials so that there wouldn't be massive explosions. At the same time, I think what's being considered in Israel is that Iran is very much an aspirational nuclear state. Mm-hmm. They can turn nuclear very, very quickly. And as we saw on Tuesday evening, the Iranians held ballistic missiles, which could quite easily have, if Iran were to turn nuclear, carry nuclear warheads on them. And so that could absolutely decimate Israel.
Yeah.
And so Israeli leaders, I would imagine now, are thinking of that existential threat. And of course, there would be, as was seen in the retaliation to mid-April's attack, there was a very symbolic attack. I think it indicated to the Iranians that Israel would be able to strike very, very strategic facilities.
Yeah.
I think no one is taking the fallout for granted, but Israelis see it as an existential threat.
Dr. Efrat Sopher, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Efrat Sopher from the Ezri Center at Haifa University, also deputy at the Board of Deputies of British Jews.